welcome again to the Law, Policing and Justice podcast, episode 6. I hope you all had a lovely summer break. My name is Nurin Chowdhury. I am the Supervising Solicitor leading the Legal Advice Centre and lecturer at the University of East London. So, in today's episode, we'll be discussing the topic on the work and research around policing and social justice. We have a lovely guest today, Dr. Emma Cunningham, who is a joint programme leader for BA Honours, Criminology and Criminal Justice, and Senior Lecturer for the University of East London. Hello, Emma.
Hi.
So let me tell you a bit more about Emma. Emma's work is driven by a pursuit of equality, diversity and social justice. Emma's work has made important contributions to our understanding of the history of women's integration in policing, contributing to a deeper understanding of the challenges women in policing facing today and have previously faced. Emma has been asked by different media outlets for her expert comments for articles such as The Guardian and iNews. Emma has made appearances on TV programmes such as the BBC News Channel, Sky News, Channel 5 News. She has also had discussions on the radio, where she has joined 5 Live, BBC Wales and BBC Hertfordshire and Worcester. Since working for UEL, Emma has become involved in networks, blogs and in writing short articles on policing, misogyny and the toxic culture recently exposed in policing. Internationally, Emma has also published in the Irish News, Yahoo News and Foreign Affairs New Zealand. So, well done for all your hard work, Emma. What I'll do today, as usual, I will let our students and alumni introduce themselves and then put their questions forward to you. Over to you all.
My name is Latifa.
My name is Fatima Begum.
And my name is Jim Nayelu.
My name is Tanya Morgan. And my name is Jasmine Wimes.
My name is Emma Cunningham.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
What specific aspect of policing do you find most crucial in addressing systemic inequalities within communities?
So I think there are a number of issues that I would address, and the women that I was talking to yesterday gave a really good presentation on what those issues were, and they were talking about things like being a female, being working class, being black, being Asian, and how they were treated not just by their peers who they work with, but also by the institution of policing and by the public that they're there to serve. So those were some of the issues that they drew on yesterday and informed people about. So they'd be some of the crucial things that I would say that they've had to deal with all of those challenges at any one time.
Right, thank you.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Nice meeting you, though.
And you.
I really wanted to meet you. So my question will be, can you discuss any legal framework or policing that you believe need reform to enhance social justice in policing?
Yeah, I think there's things like policing being more representative for those communities that they are policing. Mm-hmm. I think currently it's still nowhere near where it needs to be. The number of women in policing has increased, but there's still a number of challenges that we need to work on. So there's still a lot of work to do. There are some positives there, but there are still some negatives like police culture that would dissuade some people from getting involved in policing, sadly.
Thank you so much.
How does your research address the intersection of policing practices and human rights?
Wow, great question. Let me think. On my feet. Okay, so I'd like to think that I take into account that people have various challenges, and so my research has become more inclusive as I've gone on to do further research. So when I was starting out on my research, I did a piece of work that was looking at 23 police women and their lived experiences of policing, and I was looking at what their challenges were. My more recent research has looked at Black and Asian women's issues within policing and within the policing practice, and I've looked recently at some of the ways that they've been treated by policing as an institution in England and Wales. And one of the ways that they have been treated really badly is that they've been open to accusations of misconduct a lot more than white police officers have, and so that's an area that I think does need looking at further. And it was noted in Casey's review of policing, but it was going on a lot longer than that. recent period. So it's been going on for an awfully long time and still needs real change.
Hi Emma. So my question is, in what ways can law enforcement agencies effectively implement community policing models to foster trust and cooperation?
So trust and cooperation are at an all-time low in policing, and especially in relation to women and girls currently. So when we think about some of the issues in policing that we've seen, some of the scandals like Cousins and Carrick, like Sarah Everard, like Charing Cross, and all the WhatsApp messages and the violence against women and girls that we've seen in a number of ways in society and in the news, we can understand that trust and legitimacy in policing is at an all-time low. And one of the ways this could be improved is by more community policing and building up those relationships again. And I think over the past 13 years with the Conservative government, that was shifted away from, and we've lost a lot of that community liaison around communities and the police. I think a lot has to be done to try and rebuild some of those things, and the trust and legitimacy is one of the things that needs rebuilding.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
Hi Emma. My question that I pose to you is, what recommendations do you have for policymakers to ensure that social justice concerns are prioritised in future policing initiatives?
I think we've got to still, anyone who's interested in this field has to keep posing those questions. So you have to keep getting the questions out there and making sure that those issues are the ones that are on the agenda, so that they can't be sidelined, so that we can't have these kind of cover-ups around things like misconduct and around the police not being taken to task when they ought to be. So when they're breaking the rules, when they're breaking the law. So I think those kinds of things need to be put in place to allow people to be able to see that everyone, the law should be equal for everyone across the board, whether you're an officer or whether you're a civilian. The law counts, and we should be able to see that counting.
Great, thank you.
I have a follow-up question with regard to what Jasmine just asked.
Yeah, go.
So that is, what part of your job is most exciting, and how do you think it impacts on the society?
My job, I think I've been really lucky in that I've interviewed loads of women who are doing an incredibly hard job of policing. So yes, I do the interviews, I do the nice side of things, if you like. I'm not the one getting out of bed at daft o'clock and going and facing different tasks every day. But the one thing I would say about that job, and the one thing that sticks in my mind, is that no matter which women I was speaking to about being involved in policing, they were all really, really loving their job. Even though they've been treated badly by the institution of policing, by some of their colleagues. And I mean, I can give you a couple of examples of that. So one police officer, for instance, that I was talking to, she was pregnant, and she'd said that she was getting anonymous messages sent to her at work, and someone had taken a photograph of her from her drawer, and they'd photocopied it, and they transported that photograph onto a picture of a grossly overweight woman, and then they were drip feeding them and sending them to her. And she, as a police officer, used her policing skills, took the fingerprints, all the rest of it, and found that it was her colleague doing this, who sat across from her and worked with her.
That's very just.
He was doing that to her.
Wow.
I mean, it's absolutely shocking that those women are going through some of the kinds of things that they've been put through by their colleagues, but also by the institution.
Yeah, of course.
So the misconduct cases of some of the Black and Asian police women that we talked about yesterday at the British Science Festival, they'd talked about being put on these whipped up charges of misconduct that, you know, there was no case to answer eventually. That was the finding. But as long as that is hanging over you, it makes you questionable, and it's about your integrity. And if they're getting people to question your integrity, it's very hard to get up and do that job, I think.
Of course, but I think it goes back to what you said about people's passion, as well as, you know, being like maybe a woman of colour working in such a, you know, a diverse job. It's like, so long as you've got the passion, it's a matter of, you know, you're there no matter what you go through, you want to make that change. And
That's
I think, you
the
know,
thing
it's
that
important
comes through.
that is also emphasised, you know, where we do this job because we love this job and we do want to make a change, whereas, you know, some people are actually in jobs and they're like scrutinised and, you know, questioned over things that they haven't
Absolutely.
done. So I suppose passion does really help.
It does, and that is the one thing that I would say all of those interviewees would agree on, that they had a real passion for that job. And that was the thing that really struck me, because I thought, for me personally, to wake up every day and not know what I was facing, that would be horrendous. That would be my worst idea of a job. But for them, that was what they loved. They loved that, and they loved that they could make a difference, and they were very, very, you know, passionate about what they could do, and very involved in wanting to be involved in justice.
There's your genuinity as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
She
For
made
what
a
they do.
difference, didn't she? By following it
Exactly.
through and putting her skills into use.
Exactly. I asked her what happened after that event, and she said, oh, it was kind of just sorted out internally. It never went to a proper case. Her boss had just told her that they were sorry for what they'd done, and you kind of think there's no recourse even, is there?
Brushed under the carpet as usual. Whereas if it was,
And that was
maybe-
in a lot of the cases, that it was just kept in-house.
It's a shame, but you know, conversations like these do eventually make change, I suppose, when it's like kind of out there in the news, so in the media. So hopefully you continue doing what you're doing in order to make a change.
I still really enjoy interviewing, so I really get a lot from it. And because I've been doing it a long time now, I can kind of put things into context a bit more, so I can see how things are changing over a period of years. So I can look back at pre-Stephen Lawrence, for instance, and I can look back at different events and how they might have changed things, like Sarah Everard and the vetting of police officers and things like that. So I've got those kinds of skills from doing the job, but I really do just like talking to people.
So one more question following on from that. Do you find that when you interview people that you make an impact in, like, for them, whereby they find themselves speaking up about their experiences and maybe putting in complaints or wanting to make a change within their workplace? Do you find that after interviewing them it makes a difference for them personally within their workplace?
I would hope that I'm open enough a person to be able to allow people to go down those routes if they wanted to. Obviously I wouldn't suggest any of that sort of thing while I'm doing my interviews or anything like that, but I think possibly some of those women have reflected on what they've told me, and it's a position of power essentially, because they're telling me their own experience, their own lived experiences of how they've got through things and how they've continued to keep working, and some of them promoted within that system. So it is a position of power, and it's a privilege really for me to be able to listen to their stories.
Of course,
It's nice.
What advice would you give to students who are looking to go into this area?
So I'd say, you know, go into these areas with your eyes open, but do have the passion, because that is one thing that is going to be useful in terms of your own resilience, keeping you going, allowing you to do the things that people might not have thought you would be able to do. And I would say just be authentic, be yourself. And I'd say that to women in any job that they were looking, any occupation, any study they were looking to do. Don't try and become something that you think you should be. Be you, because that will come across, that you are being your authentic self, and people like that. people take to that much more than you trying to fit into a box that maybe doesn't suit.
Yeah. So, my last question. What is the best part of your job?
The best part of my job has been, I must admit, coming to London, meeting loads of new people, and I did think when I started it, what have I done? Where is Newham? And I really enjoy it. So I was telling some people at a group last night that I went to, I was saying Newham's a really friendly place. And they were laughing, but I was like, honestly, I didn't know a soul here. And I was like, I found the place where I was going to be teaching, and I was like, oh well, there's a Morrison's nearby. That's handy for me. So I went and got my Yorkshire tea, and when I was in there, the guy who was serving me was like, oh, you're just coming for the essentials, Yorkshire tea. And I was chatting away to him, and I thought, you don't expect that in London, and yet Newham, you do get that still. So you've still got a friendly atmosphere here.
Yes, definitely.
And it's rough around the edges, but where I'm from is rough around the edges, so that's fine. I fit quite nicely. I've met some fabulous people, and I'm really enjoying it. So as long as I still enjoy that, that's what I'll continue to keep doing.
The place is very diverse, but you know, it is quite community based.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
like for myself, I've obviously lived in Newham for 40 years now, but people tend to stay in Newham.
Right.
So as you said, like, you know, people are quite friendly, and in the news it's not made to be like that. And you know, it's very like Newham is a bad place. Newham is
Gets a bad rap.
it is.
When every time
Yeah.
I went north, that was the first thing I was scared. I was like, wow, what is this? I've read the articles, but they're lovely people.
Yeah, very nice, very friendly.
And really
Thanks
loved
for
it.
invied me along. I've really enjoyed myself.
Loved it, yeah.
And Nurun, thank you for being
Oh, you're
such a
welcome.
friendly person to have met.
As we say all the time.
Absolutely.
We're loud ones.
It's made a big difference. So, no, that's great.
So that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Emma, for coming in, and thank you to our lovely visitors for putting the questions forward, and to our listeners, thank you for listening in, and we will be back, and please do stay connected. If you do wish to get involved with our Law, Policing and Justice podcast, please email the Legal Advice Centre at uel.ac.uk, and if you wish to explore more on the Law, Policing and Justice courses, please visit www.uel.ac.uk. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and stay well.